All right, we're going to continue to work with fractions to decimals. Now, we did this in an earlier lesson and we had problems very much like our number 1, where the denominator was one of our place values. So please remember our place values. I'm going to draw a little chart up here that this is tenths, this is hundredths, this is thousandths, this is 10,000ths, and so on. So if this says 21 hundredths, we have to have out to the hundredths place. The 1 has to go in the final digit, the final place, so this is 0.21. As long as the denominator is a power of 10, that's all we have to do. But it's not going to always be that. The problems in this lesson, the number in the denominator is going to go into one of these evenly, so we can take this little shortcut. And then in a future lesson, we'll talk about, well, what do you do when you can't? I'm actually going to do these problems 2 ways, and you are welcome to do it either way. All right, remember our denominators for our place values. The tenth, hundredth, 1,000th, 10,000th. All right, could I turn this 5 into one of these? And if I could, what would be the easiest one? Well, I could turn it into 10. So in other words, what I'm going to do is make it into an equivalent fraction. How many times does 5 go into 10? The answer is 2. So do that to the top. So I'm multiplying by 2 over 2, which is 1. That gives me 8. 8 tenths. That's an 8 in the tenths place. We would probably write it as 0.8. All right, here's the other way that you may have been taught to do this. 4 over 5 means 4 divided by 5. So it is 4 being divided by 5. If all you knew how to do was work with whole numbers, you would be stopped immediately and say, I can't do that because 5 doesn't go into 4. But we know that 4 is a whole number that has a decimal point. We know that we can add all the zeros that we want. So let's put our decimal point up. 5 doesn't go into that 4, but it goes into 40 8 times, and 8 times 5 is 40, and we got exactly the same answer. So if you happen to see that it can be changed into one of these, you can get the decimal place, or you can take the top divided by the bottom. Let's look at the next one. Remember your decimal places: a tenth, a hundredth, 1,000th. Now in this, 40 does not go into 10. 40 does not go into 100 evenly. 40 does go into 1,000, but you know most people wouldn't even notice that. So I'm not even going to do it that way. I'm going to do what I would normally do, which is the bottom into the top. Remember that you can add a 0. Put that decimal straight up. 40 does not go into 7, but 40 goes into 70. Well, it doesn't go 2 times, it just goes once. 1 times 40 is 40. If you had tried 2, you would have gotten 80 and it would have been too big. Subtract. We're not through, so we're going to add another 0. And you can add as many zeros as you want until it stops, which is called terminating. All right, this is going to go in there 7 times. 7 times 0 is 0. 7 times 4 is 28. Let me get myself a little more room. Subtract for 20. It hasn't terminated yet, so I add another 0. 40 goes into 200. Well, if you don't know, how about 4 into 20? Yes, it goes 5 times. 5 times 40 is 200. So the decimal is 0.175. It is always take the bottom, divide it into the top, add a decimal point, and as many zeros as you need until it terminates, stops, gets a remainder of 0. All right. I believe that this is accidentally a repeat of number 2, so I will not redo this problem. Let's go on and find another one. All right, I can do this one by the shortcut, and then I'll do it by division. Remember that the decimals are 1/10, 1/100th, and 20 will go into 100. So I'm going to do this. 20 goes into 100 5 times, and 5 times 11 is 55. My decimal is 55 in the hundredths place. So the last 5 goes all the way to the right, and that's 5, so I have 0.55. Let's do it with division. 20 into 11. Add the decimal point and go ahead and start with your first 0. 20 doesn't go into 1, it doesn't go into 11, but it goes into 110. I'm going to guess it goes about 5 times because 20 times 5 is 100. All right, so there's my 5. 5 times 20 is 100. Subtract for 10. I'm not finished, so I add another 0 and I bring it down. 20 into 100, there's my other 5. 5 times 20 is 100. I like to do it by division. I rarely do this. I almost always do this. All right. Let's do this one by the division. 8 is going into 7. We will add a decimal point and start out with 1 0. 8, well, 8 times 9 is 72, so 9 is too big. So we're going to have to use 8. 8 times 8 is 64. Subtract for 6. It's not terminated yet, so bring down a 0. 8 into 60. Well, 8 times 8 was 64. I'm going to have to back off. 8 times 7. 8 times 7 is 56. Subtract for 4. It has not terminated yet. Add another 0. But 8 does go into 40 exactly 5 times. That gives me 40. So this is 0.875. So when you change a fraction into a decimal, if it stops and gets a remainder of 0, it is called terminating. To terminate is to stop. So these fractions are turning into terminating decimals. So if you were to read in your textbook, it would talk about multiplying the denominator and the numerator by the same thing, like I did on this problem. But honestly, more people use the division. Just make sure you put the bottom number on the outside and the top number on the inside, add a decimal point, and as many zeros as you need for it to terminate.